Welcome back. We're glad to have you on the program, and that's just the tip of the iceberg as far as how inflation is affecting the pockets of many Nigerians. Of course, we have our correspondent in some other states who will be bringing us up to speed with residents in their own areas as well, and helping us understand just how they're coping. But as we start off the next leg of our conversation now, we have joining us Mr. Bountiful Atako. Mr. Bountiful Atako is the Managing Director, Alana Green Limited. Bountiful Atako, Managing Director, Alana Green Limited. Thank you for joining us. And he joins us virtually, by the way. We also have joining us Mr. Gospel Obele, Chief Economist, Streetnomics Limited, who also joins us via Zoom. Thank you for joining us on the program. I believe... Yes, thank you for joining us. You might have to unmute yourself so that we can hear you more clearly.
Yes, I am unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Thank you for joining us.
All right, great.
Well,
thank you for having me.
It would be valid for us to ask you, both gentlemen, first of all, how inflation is also affecting you before we go straight to the conversation. So how are you coping? By how much percentage has inflation affected your income?
Well, it has greatly affected income and also purchasing power and all that. Primarily in the space of having to use more share of income or spend more on food, on basic household supply items, and all of that, even transportation, and also it's expected to a large extent. And it's a global phenomenon because you also have that experience in the UK, in other African nations, and in Nigeria. The context in Nigeria is the fact that it's strongly woven into the day-to-day experience, and it's at a very, very rocket high 28%, and food inflation is at 32%. So it's eating deep into consumer pockets, as well as shaping the day-to-day experiences of Nigerians as they have to spend more of their income, even live on borrowed income, just to get a life and to move from point A to point B. And to a very large extent, for so many persons who are on the lower rung of the income ladder, there's also a challenge where they are stuck trying to get by on a day-to-day basis. As a result, they don't have enough monies or spare monies to fund their dreams, their aspirations, and all that. So it's sort of leading to a situation of a new cycle of poverty trap, because people are in a fix trying to just live, breathe, and survive every day, and it's leading to newer ways of agitation, pain, and all that. So it's really a bad situation right now. For most Nigerians. For some, they've had to find creative ways to, make extra income and then, keep their heads above the waters and the likes. But it's a very bad situation as it stands.
Indeed, it's as bad as you describe it. I mean, there was a report that talked about how Nigerians are now borrowing, from those loan apps to meet day-to-day income, day-to-day needs, not necessarily for capital expenditure. And that just reflects how bad the situation has become. But for you, Mr. Obele, as well, I'd like you to also respond to the same question.
Well, this is Gospel Obele.
Okay, Mr. Atako, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, so for me, I'm a normal Nigerian as well. I buy food items from the market. As a matter of fact, within the festivities, I escorted my wife to the market, and I could find food prices being crazily off the roof. A small pail of tomato was going for 600 naira. That used to be half the price of a basket of tomato sometime about early last year, or the end of 2022. Cooking gas is also crazily expensive. It's about 1,000 naira per kg, and it just tells me that the inflation is doing a lot of horror, to households in Nigeria. As a farmer and as a business, Alana Green encountered a lot of difficulties with the inflation during the December periods, as we were trying to procure paddy rice, we found that prices were skyrocketing, jumping from 360,000 naira per ton to 370 to 390, and then up to 410. So the inflation is pushing companies off their budgets, and we cannot really make predictions based on what it should be. The inflation poses a serious challenge for Nigerian businesses. We need to find a way to look at what we can do to curb the inflation. And some of the solutions that I can recommend is all year round production, which the government is trying at that end. My commendations to the Minister of Agriculture for starting the wheat dry season farming. We need to look at that. We need to go full scale mechanized as farmers in Nigeria. We need to hasten up whatever agreement we have with John Deere so that they can kick off their plants here, and then we can push that side on mechanization. And we need to better prepare for the upcoming wet season farming, because if we don't plan well, then we plan to fail. Pretty much that's how far I can say about inflation for now. Not to forget, the numbers are spiraling again. Headline inflation is at 28.2%. Sometime in November, I was on channels to speak on inflation. It was 27.6, and then it's 28.2 as of today. Food inflation is 32.8%. So we really need to look at it as a nation. We find that a lot of investment banks, global investment banks like JP Morgan, are optimistic, but we find that there are divergent views to what the 2024 outlook is as per the naira, the inflation, the currency devaluation, and around these issues.
Any of you can jump in on this particular one between Mr. Obela and Mr. Atako. Are you seeing the government of Nigeria doing enough to see how this can taper down at the end of this? Because we've seen inflation numbers, as you said, headline inflation hitting 28.2, and the economists are saying perhaps it's going to come up higher by the time we hear the numbers this January. MPC expected to meet again, perhaps maybe marginally increase the interest rates. Let's see how that plays out, but nobody really knows how this thing plays out. But the people in the know see that the numbers will increase somehow, whether marginally or significantly. So for both of you, any of you can jump in on this. Is there anything you're seeing that the government is doing to see how this can be reversed as soon as possible? The expectation is that by the end of December, by assumption, 21-point-something% is where inflation should be. Is that even possible?
Okay, so those of us who know me on TV will know that I'm a serious critic of the government. But I must tell you, it'll be unfair to say the government is not putting in effort. Are they doing enough? I do not think so. But the government, remember, it's pretty much a new government, and they've taken steps or measures to show that they are serious about the things that they say. So, like I said, they flagged off the dry season wheat production. There's also a program called Agro Pocket and all. So they are indeed trying. Governments are sitting up. But I like to say we need to look at a more across-border approach. We need to stop holding just the federal government responsible. Citizens need to call on their state government. For example, I'll take a cue from your first view before our segment started, from Asaba, the interview you had in Asaba. Delta is a state that has vast land that should be able to produce a lot of stuff. Alana Green is trying to do some work in Delta states in partnership with PIND, that's the Partnership Initiative for the Niger Delta, to see how we can produce rice in that region, because there are a lot of rice belts in that place. So why is the Delta State government, for example, not creating a rice basin or an agro basin for production? So state governments need to become more responsible, need to involve their people in agriculture. We found that agriculture is the bedrock of the economy. No country can thrive without being food secure. And then governments in their own bid need to put in more effort into fighting insecurity, because insecurity jeopardizes agriculture, by 100%. Investors will not bring in funds. That's one. Farmers will not go into the fields, and then the food production will be insufficient. And when it's insufficient, when it's controlled by the few people, they're going to push food prices high. So if we don't do the right thing as a nation, if we're not serious to look at our challenges, we're not going to get it right. And if we don't get it right, we'll be all the ones to blame. I would like to also say that Nigeria faces looming food scarcity in 2024. So whatever government is doing, we need to sit up as a nation and take the bull by the horn to drive our production. Pretty much I'll leave it at that.
I'm sure Obele is itching to respond. Obele, give us your perspective.
Yeah, thank you very much. As an economist, basically, I realized that the approach to inflation in Nigeria, in fact, globally, have been very conventional. But the inflation we are dealing with right now today is largely unconventional because it's driven by to very large extent, non-monetary factors. You have the impact of the rise in global commodity prices, informed by the Russian-Ukraine war and climate change and all of these growing geopolitical dynamics. And that's also impacting deeply on the Nigerian economy, which is very import dependent and very lacks that productive, ecosystem locally. So there's a part where inflation is being imported. There's also a part where inflation is also being informed by the quality of the currency. That's the value of the naira, the exchange rate dynamics, and all that. So when you have all this, coupled with the fact that in May, the president at the inauguration tried to take up full subsidy and unify the exchange market at the same time. That double policy stance was very counterproductive, in my opinion. It was good, but it was very counterproductive in how it was executed. And that's because you cannot unify the exchange market the way it is right now. That's number one. Two, subsidy needs more like a phased out plan, to sort of exit that program in the Nigerian economy. So what you have is that rush to execute on those two legs of policy, sort of, bounced back in terms of the Nigerian economy, in form of inflation and all the dynamics that you have. So it's important that going forward to dealing with inflation, there has to be a more sustainable approach beyond just interest rates. And as much as interest rates are critical, beyond just interest rates, looking at the core ecosystem around inflation in Nigeria, a bountiful nation, and as well as partnering with the fiscal authorities to ensure that sound policies that are in line with monetary engagements can help to sort of reduce the impact of inflation on the average Nigeria and across the value chain of the agricultural sector.
Gentlemen, the purpose of this conversation is also to equip Nigerians with life skills. Would I say to survive or to just find their way around this, because this is affecting everyone. So let's go back to the streets and just hear from Nigerians how this is affecting them and maybe how they're trying to cope. And then we'll come back to have more of this conversation. So let's head over to Bauchi State now, where our correspondent Hajara Aliyu has been speaking with some people. Hajara, to you now.
The state of the economy is a conversation that is on the lips of almost every Nigerian. Here in Bauchi is no different. Let's find out how residents of Bauchi are coping through the financial hurdles. I'm here with three gentlemen. Two are lecturers and one is a journalist, just like me. Let me begin with Mr. Nazif. As a lecturer, is your salary able to meet your demands at the end of the month?
Not really, not at all. Let me be specific, because the situation is pathetic. You and me know the situation we're in this country because of the rising, cost of living. Things are very high. Something that you buy 400 naira today or yesterday, today is 300 or 400. So the situation, it's very high. People are dying of hunger. So the people had to, diversify look for another options for them to be able to survive. Someone like me as a lecturer, I had to diversify to lecture in about 2 or 3, schools for me to be able to make, more monies for me to be able to provide to the needs of my family. So the situation and the issue of cutting costs is very important for someone to become a realist, so that he or she will be able to to survive. So we always consider this issue of scalar preference, whereby you take the most important issue and attend to, and others that are not more important, you don't have to bother yourself.
Okay, let me ask you this. In what area, to be specific, what area are you mostly concerned about? Is it food, transportation? What exactly?
All. Both the food, the fuel, and everything. It's very high. Let me give you a simple example. Before this issue of rising in inflation, I used to fill my tank in my car with 15,000 naira. But nowadays it's 45,000 naira. So you see, it makes me, to buy a motorcycle so that I'll be able to survive, because I had to take my kids to the school every day. So it cannot be able to contain my movement. So I had to look for a motorcycle so that I'll be able to survive. So this is the situation I'm in now.
Okay. Speaking about motorcycle, I saw you on one earlier, and I know you have a car. So how did we get here?
I am forced to put my car aside because of the economic situation in the country. From top to bottom, everybody is feeling it. Way and manner, price of services, price of commodities are skyrocketing in the country. Call for, adoption of what economists call scale of preference, whereby you just choose the most important things and forget those who are less important. So it is because of this that we cut, cost of living by slashing some of, the things we do. Like you said, of course, I have a car, and if you know me all through, I go with car in Bauchi. But because of the situation now, the inflation, the removal of fuel subsidy that led to the high increment of, price of fuel. So I am forced to now buy a Boxer, and you can see the reason why I even decided to buy a Boxer, not a ladies or any other motorcycle, because of the full economy of Boxer motorcycles. So now Nigerians are cutting cost of living because of the economic situation. What we used to spend before, we just have to cut it because of the rising inflation. Initially, I used to fill my tank, and it will take me 2 weeks, going around my place of work and other places I used to go. But now with 50,000 fuel, I cannot do that. And you can see that I cannot survive with a lecturer salary, and then with some, little amount that used to come to me from other, ventures.
What is the size of your family?
I am a father of 3 with a wife, though intending to go for more. But you can see that even my intention to go polygamous is now under reconsideration because of the economic situation. So really, we cut a lot of things so that we can survive through this very, very harsh economy.
Mr. Winty, he's the journalist amongst us. He's just like me here. How is this economic situation impacting on you and your family?
Well, as you know, a journalist is the one that are mostly affected by this very ugly trend of rising inflation. Because if you look at the tasky nature of our responsibility, coupled with our struggle to meet the demands of our family needs, honestly, one cannot survive in this very ugly trend unless if one diversify his means. And that is why as journalists we are agitating for the actualization of media salary scale to enable us meet the tasky nature of our responsibility and that of our family.
So there you go, those gentlemen talking about how they've been able to scale down. I saw Bountiful chuckling at some point. I'll come back to you guys, but let us know what you think about this. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief. Bountiful, I know the part where you were chuckling, where the gentleman said, well, the economy has stopped his polygamous plans. I saw you were chuckling there. And I imagine a lot of women are probably happy about that, but we're not getting into that this morning. If you were to add just one coping skill to some of the lists that they have mentioned. Someone is lecturing in 3 universities, no more riding vehicles, they are now jumping motorcycles, basically to survive. If you were to add one for you and gospel, what will that one thing be for Nigerians to be able to cope during these times. I'll begin with you, Bountiful, and I'll go to Gospel.
So if you know what we do at Alana Green Limited, you'd be aware that our advocacy is for people to come into farming and farming as a business. I encourage people who can, whether you live in urban cities or you live in rural communities, do some bit of farming. It doesn't matter what you do, whether you rear a goat or you grow tomato behind your house, or pumpkin leaf, or vegetables, water leaf, or chicken for your consumption. Do some farming. Now, there is nothing else that I can advise people than to farm, because farming does a lot, right, to help to ease the pressure that inflation puts on household. You find that the conventional things that you go to the market, so you might consider it as you're just going to buy tomato in the market, hypothetically speaking, the 600 naira tomato I gave an example about. But how about your cost of transportation to and fro the market?
So we should all find a way to farm.
You get to the market again, unnecessary.
Bountiful.
Sorry?
So we should all find a way to farm, whether on your balcony, at the back of your house, but just try to grow something or rear something. Fantastic point. Gospel.
Something.
What would you want to add to that list?
Well, for me, it would be very simple. Nigerians need to rethink their income streams, and as much as possible, try to play in sectors that are inflation-proof. And it technically means just upskilling yourself slightly more. And if you need to shift markets, where you can deploy those skills, please do. If you need to get on remote jobs where you can deploy those skills, please do. If you want to go more services driven, please do. There are markets globally that you can sort of get jobs or gigs to do remotely, and they'll pay you more value for that. And the Nigerians also need to probably think, for those who are learned and have access to internet enough, need to think of exchanging value in foreign currencies. You can get paid dollars sitting at home in Nigeria doing graphics design jobs for companies or startups in Dubai. These opportunities are there, all right? So it's important to diversify income as much as, and also diversify towards areas that are inflationary proof. For people who run food businesses, for instance, especially people who make bowls of soups and all that, one of my encouragement would be, because they cannot beat the inflation dynamics, would be to rethink their business models. How can you move from making bowls of soups to become an advocacy for food security in Nigeria, using data and information to sort of drive access to market solution? That would position your business, to become more social enterprise driven in terms of modeling right now, and you can sort of access grants and access free monies available to do great work supporting the ecosystem beyond producing a bowl of soup. So these are my ideas to Nigerians to sort of rethink what they're currently doing, rethink their state of play in sectors that are inflationary proof, and then upskill further upwards on the value chain, as it were. The inflationary dynamics has come to stay. I mean, sorry to say that. It's not going down anytime soon. Even if it goes down, to be honest, it's going to be a managed inflation. But even if inflation goes down, the cost of living crisis has come to stay, because the cost of bread would not also go down anytime soon.
Yeah, timeless and priceless counsel that you have given Nigerians there. Rethink business models, invest in, I don't know how proper that is, but invest in other currencies and all of that. And of course, plan something. We'd like to thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time on the program. Mr. Bountiful Atako, the Managing Director, Alana Green Limited, who joined us from our Abuja studio. And also Mr. Gospel Obeli, Chief Economist and Streetnomics Limited.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us.
Great to see you again. Thank you, Kayode. Thank you, everyone.
You forgot to add, rethink your polygamy plans.
When Atako was talking, I was thinking, not everyone lives in places where they can plant anything.
You can plant on your balcony, really.
Balcony?
Just in front of your house. You can
for those who don't have balcony,
little buckets. There are different ways you can actually plant.
Okay, let's see how that plays out eventually.
It looks like you have to bend over backwards if you don't have small portions of earth around your residence, but just do anything that you can.
So maybe you need to maybe buy a bucket, put some soil.
There are different ways, innovative ways to do these things.
But confer with your landlord, by the way, if the property is not yours, because
if you're a
that was not the idea actually when you were given that property. So be very clear. Be very clear. The landlord is comfortable.
It's just like your flower pots. Think of it that way. Just like flower pots.
How much? Okay, I don't want to be pessimistic, but how much will that go to save you some extra cash?
At least
planting just inside
if you plant pepper, if you plant tomato, and all of these small things, that 200 of agbado.
Let us know what you think.
But just be creative, and of course, let us know what you think. Post, hashtag Morning Brief on X. Would like to read your comments.
Morning Brief. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief. Quite important. So we love you to be part of the conversation. So tweet or X. Sometimes I get confused which to use. CTV Morning Brief, because we like to read your comments and we know your thoughts on the program. Bukola?
Indeed. So we've gone from Delta to Bauchi. Now we're coming home. We want to hear more from Nigerians on how they're coping, particularly with transportation. So let's take this and we'll be right back.
Things in the country is now is like who? In short, let's say even the people that does not even have self-man are finding it very, very tough and very, very difficult to get 2 square meal in a day. Going out is a problem. One that can easily okay, fine, let me just rush down to Lagos and pick up 1 or 2 things so that I can run out a business. But now people are not really doing it that much.
We that we are union, we don't even realize money like before, because specifically about fuel, things is not moving fine for everybody. It's very, very hard nowadays.